All right, so it looks like a lot of you are liking that tutorial earlier on how to use the Hypixel API. Well, today I'm going to do a full-blown plugin that is very practical if you're trying to run a private guild server. Basically, when you log into the server, it's going to set your rank as your Hypixel rank, just like it would look like on Hypixel. And also, it's going to, in tab, set that, as well as having a prefix or a suffix with your guild tag, or actually your guild rank. So if you're a member, officer, or guild master. So let's go ahead and just see what we're going to be making, and then we'll get right into it. All right, so you can see right here, we logged in. It takes a second. I have a delay, so it takes about, I'm not sure, I'll have to look in the code, but about a second and a half or something like that to actually fire the setting of your name. But it tells you BlueSnapple joined the game, and obviously I'm a mod. It also sends a nice little message and says, "Welcome, fellow officer. Thanks for being a role model to our members." So it knows that I'm an officer and it tells me this specific message. You can change that or don't have it, whatever. In the video, I will just teach you how to do that. So you see I'm pressing tab here. It has my mod rank, has my green name, unfortunately, and my officer rank therein as my suffix. So that's pretty much what it does, and you can have whoever joins it automatically is going to detect what their username is. That's pretty nifty, pretty handy. And this here is just a private guild event that we were working on. It's finished. Right now I just have the copycats plugin, and we're going to be making this. Okay guys, let's go ahead and get into the code. It's going to be pretty much exactly the same as our last tutorial, but let's go ahead and create a new project. It's going to be a Maven project. Go to next. All right, group ID, we can just call it group ID, doesn't really matter. And then we can do rank plugin, and our version, let's just set it to 0.1. Next, let's make sure it's in the right place. Documents, rank plugin, we can leave it like that. And then it's going to create our files. Cool. So in our source, we're just worried about the Java resources and our POM file. So our POM file, what we're going to have to do is just set up all of the repos, the properties, build, and dependencies. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to be doing some copying and pasting over here, so explain everything in just a second. I'm going to be copying and pasting a little bit, and this will all be on the GitHub, so don't worry if I'm going a little too fast. But let's go ahead and start on that. Alright, so first thing I'm going to copy and paste is the name of the jar when it's exported as a jar file. It's going to be called ranks, and this is just saying obviously the name and the properties that the jar.final is going to be set to its project.name, which is ranks. So next thing we need to do is set up our repo. We only have one. I'm just going to copy and paste that here. It's our Spigot MC API. Next thing is our dependencies. Here's the dependencies. There's quite a few. You can see here that we have the Guava, the JSON, HTTP components, Joda time, the net.hypixel, Spigot MC, and bucket. So those are ones that you've all seen before. Net.hypixel, okay, yes, it's red here. I know a lot of you guys have been having trouble with that dependency, and so I've already went ahead and completely wiped everything. I'll be able to show you how to install that dependency and make it work. So we'll get that covered in this video. Our last thing on the POM is our build, so let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so here I pasted the build and everything in it. So first plugin inside of our build is just the normal Maven compiler. Next one's a little special. It's the Maven Shade plugin. I talked about this last video, so I'm not going to really go into it, but basically it takes all the files it needs for the Hypixel API, all that, and lets us access it in this plugin. The configuration here has an output directory in the Shade plugin, so where it's putting it is the plugins folder of our server. So the final name is going to be ranks as well, so we can just leave it, and that's pretty much it for our POM file. So I know that the net.hypixel, this one is not going to work, I already know that, but let's go ahead and set up our configuration as if we were trying to build it. So go to a Maven, we're going to name this build. Command line is just going to be clean package shade. Okay, apply that, press OK. Alright, cool. Now, if we actually run this, it's going to have an error, which is okay, because that's what we expect. Alright, so you see the could not resolve dependencies for project group ID rank plugin.jar, failure to find net.hypixel Java jar 1.0 snapshot. So that's all the big error, the dependency problem that everybody's been having, and we're going to go ahead and show you how to fix that. So let's go ahead and do that. First, go to Safari, and then we're going to go to api.hypixel.net. Then we're going to go to GitHub repo, and then we're going to go to clone or download. Just click the download zip, and on Mac, obviously it's going to download as just a folder file. We'll go ahead and we'll use that in a second here. Let's go ahead and go out of Safari. We're going to quit IntelliJ as well, and then we're going to go to import project. And so now go to our downloads that we just downloaded. Okay, so then we have our public API master, we have our Java, so we want to go to the POM in our Java. Let's go ahead and open that, and then click next, next, next. Make sure it's, it doesn't really matter, it's in downloads right now, but it should be good. All right, cool, so it looks like it's loaded everything up here. All you gotta do, once you've done this, you've imported it, you just go to the Maven projects, go to lifecycle, and then install. So as simple as that, you just double click it, it's gonna install it. Okay, as you can see, it's done, build success, and go into the users coding.m2 repository net.hypixel java jar. So it is now installed in our repo, and it is good to go. So we're done with this. We never need this again unless maybe there's a new version of API, which then we could go ahead and do the same thing again until they get an actual repo, which will be nice. So we can go ahead and delete that out of our thing there. Let's go ahead and open rank plugins again. All right, now just where it's left off. Now if it's doing it right, it should not even turn red. Okay, cool. So it looks like it's actually good to go. There's no errors here. Let's go ahead and press play here. All right, awesome. So build success, there's no errors, it's all good, and we can move on to the next stage. All right, so now that we've got the POM taken care of, let's go ahead and start on the actual coding portion that we're going to be doing for the plugin. So first off, we're going to go into the resources. We're going to do right click it, new file. We're going to name it plugin.yml. Now I'm just going to copy and paste what I have already written out. What you need to write down, I'll go over it just a second. Okay, so the plugin.yml is really simple. We're not going to have any commands. So ranks, it's just the name of the plugin main. So this is where the main class is located. It's where it's going to be located. Okay, and we can just change this to rank plugin, and we'll set up packages in just a second. So version 0.0.1, author, BlueSnapple, description, guild plugin. That's really all that you need in your plugin.yml. All right, so now we're done in the resources. We're good to go. Let's go into our Java now. So first, go ahead and create a new package, and me.bluesnapple. Obviously, you can use your username. So me.username. And we're just going to call it rank plugin to follow up with our main, and that's the class that we're going to, or that's the package we're going to. Okay, and then just press OK, and then we can go ahead and create our main class. It's going to be called ranks, just like that. Cool deal. So now this package has ranks under it, just like normal code. Extends Java plugin. Make sure we're importing org.bucket. All right, cool. Okay, so this is going to be our main class, and we're just going to create it like normal. So we're going to have our two on enable and on disable methods. First, override, and then public void on enable. We'll do some code in there in just a second. Next is at override, public void on disable. All right, cool. So then we're gonna have stuff inside here. All right, so to show our enable message in the console, it's gonna get logger.info, get description, .get name plus was enabled, and that's all we're gonna need for right now. On disable, we can do the same thing. Shows disable message was disabled. All right, cool. Now we're only gonna have two events that are gonna be needing registered. We'll do that later on, but that's going to be in our on enable. So our main class is done for now. What we're going to do is create another package here. It's going to be called config. So we're going to make one config file. We're just going to name it ranks. Press OK. So this could be really complicated. We could add a lot of different things inside of this, but it's going to be super basic. In fact, you don't even really need a config file, but I like to just have it store people in there just for debugging purposes. Sometimes if something's going wrong, this all works. If you wanted to, you could, but I'm going to teach you how to do with it. Let's go ahead and get started. All right, let's go ahead and right click config, create new Java class. Let's name this rank config. And this is going to be a really simple config file, nothing fancy. First thing we're going to do is public static YAML configuration. Okay, and just name it config. Then we're going to do private static file file. All right, and then static ranks, because that's our main class, and then plugin. So I'm going to copy and paste this first method here, but basically we're going to make sure this is our ranks main and public rank config. Make sure that's the right thing there, and then we should be good on that note. And then our last method is just going to be a saving method. Here basically it's going to try and save it. If it doesn't save, then it'll print a stack trace error. Alright, and that's all there is to the config file. Let's go ahead and move on to the next thing here. Okay, let's go ahead and make our Hypixel API portion of the code. We're going to right click this new package and name it Hypixel lib, just like that. And first thing we can do is make a new Java class and name it util. This one isn't going to be too fancy either. Basically, we're just using this class to cycle through different API keys. So we're going to do private static integer equals 0. So public static final UUID get API key. So we're going to make an array list. It's going to have UUID in it. It's going to be, we're going to call it API key equals new array list. So basically you can do this if integer is greater than 4, then we're going to do code here. So integer plus plus else integer equals 0. So API key, we're going to add some UUIDs to this. So UUID.fromString, we're going to put a string in here and we're just going to add that. So I'm going to do this 3 extra times, and for now I'm not going to show this part, but I put 4 different API keys in here, and this will just make it work. So what you can do is you can do /API and you can figure out how to find your key. Just do API key new or something like that on Hypixel, and you can grab that and put it in here. If you have alts, you can use those alts, use their keys. I don't recommend trying to get somebody else's or use somebody else's just because that's accountability issues. You have to be careful. I would never give out your API key. But other than that, I mean, I have 4 different ones that I can use, and it cycles through it. So how it does it is, obviously this is a method that returns something. So it's going to return API key dot get integer, which is the integer that we laid up here. So that's just going to cycle through each one of these, continuing to make it work and be awesome. Okay, so that's all that we need from this class. It's good to go. We're not going to change it. If you want, you can add more. Yeah, so the reason why I have these 4 cycling through is because the API key only queries 120 per minute, and if it exceeds that, it'll kind of, I guess, flag it, and if it just keeps doing it, then I think it will actually ban the user that is associated with that UUID. So make sure you're careful and don't give away your API key, and make sure it's not being used for multiple things. Now 120 times per minute, that's a lot. You probably wouldn't do that, maybe even with just one, but just in case, I'm gonna be extra safe, and I have 4 different ones. That'll be so 4 times 120. I have that many. I have a lot extra to deal with, which I never really need, but that's just here to teach you how to do this if you would possibly need to. Now we can go ahead and create the next thing here, which is get player. So let's go ahead and new Java class get player. Okay, so for get player, we're gonna make a big method here that's retrieving stuff from the Hypixel API. So public static void main. And we're actually going to have some arguments here, player. Make sure we're importing player to bucket. So we're going to make a field here, UUID equals player.getUniqueID. Now we're going to grab the Hypixel instance, Hypixel.getInstance, and we're going to set the API key that we're working with, which happens to be this one right here. And then we're going to build the request, and there's going to be a lot of statements and stuff inside of this request, and make sure we use the Hypixel one. Request equals request builder net.hypixel.new builder. The request type is going to be a player.player. We're going to skip a line, it's continuing on, but .add parameter request parameter dot player by UUID, and then comma player or UUID. We're going to skip another line, dot create request semicolon, and we're done with that first request here. Okay, so now we're going to get the instance again, Hypixel dot get instance dot get async. So we're calling the request. Okay, and it's going to be type callback. Let's make sure it's the net.hypixel. Okay, it's going to be a player reply. All right, fail cause. result. So if fail cause does not equal null, fail cause dot print stack trace. Okay, else. So now this is where we're actually able to call stuff. File configuration config equals or rank config dot config. Okay, so now we're going to be doing the important things. So if result dot get player get, so we're going to be getting the rank from the JSON file that it returns does not equal null, and result dot get player dot get rank dot add string dot equals ignore case normal. So if result dot get player dot get rank does not equal null, and result dot get player dot get rank dot get add string equals ignore case normal. I'll explain why we do that later. So now we're going to do some checks inside here. So basically if they got to this point, that means they have the rank variable in their JSON or in their JSON file that it returned, and what we're going to do with that is decide what rank they actually are by setting that in the config file that we made. So we're going to set up a few variables. I'm just going to copy and paste this. So string rank is going to be the result.getPlayer.get rank.get a string that's going to be put in the config file. As you'll see in a second here. The display name is result.getPlayer.getDisplayName config.setUUID. So this is the actual player's UUID plus the name and then display name. You'll see how in the config file that's set up. Basically the config, it's setting UUID. So that's the first thing that's going to show up. It's going to sort the entire list by their UUID. Then it's going to get the player's name, but it's setting the name and it's going to equal the display name. So UUID, and then under that is going to be is staff. It's going to be Boolean, which is true, UUID.rank, which is going to return a string, and that's going to be the rank name. So now this is called rank config. I can't spell. There we go. So rank config. So now it's going to save that since it's set it. That's really important. Now we're going to set up the next thing. Probably going to be copying and pasting here just to smooth things along. Okay, so you see here, new package rank does not equal null. It's doing the same thing it did previously, so I'm not going to really explain it. Going on to the next thing. Okay, cool. Let's copy and paste this. Change this to rank config. Let's make sure we got that taken care of. Save config. Else we're just going to set it if their rank is going to be set to none, and then we're going to do result.getPlayer.getRank plus color. If it doesn't equal null, then that means they have a rank plus color. You know, if you do /rank plus or /rank color, then you can choose your color plus. Well, this will save that in the config file as well, and so that's helpful. And obviously if they didn't have one, then it would never come to pass. And then one of the last things is chat manager dot set display name. So we're going to make chat manager later on, but the chat manager is basically going to manage the chat. It's going to set their display name in their tab and all that good stuff. And last thing to finish this out is literally Hypixel API .getInstance.finish, and then we're done. So we'll create this chat manager in a second. Okay, so let's go ahead and create the last thing in our Hypixel lib, which is going to be the get guild. So new Java class get guild. So we're really doing the same thing that we did in the other method, but we're getting the guild. So I'm just going to walk you through how this works. So just like last time, it's going to take the player and player. So when we call it the get guild, it's going to be getting the player, and then the UUID is player.getUniqueID. It's just substituting that in here. It's getting the API key. Okay, so here, Hypixel.getInstance.setAPI key is the util.getAPI key. Just making sure that we have an API key to use. Request, same thing here, but request type is .guild. Request parameter is guild by ID, and here we're passing through our copycat's ID. So if you want, you can actually figure what your ID is, or you can do a different way, but guild by ID to me is pretty easy. You go to Safari or your browser, go to hypixel.net, go to your profile page, go to your guild, and then it should have your guild UUID thing here, and you can just copy and paste that just like that. And so you can see that that's exactly the same thing that was already there, and that's how you can find it. So now we don't need Safari anymore. Quit it. Okay, so let's continue explaining. So now we got the guild by ID. We have our ID. We know how to get our ID. It's creating the request. Hypixel API.getInstance.async. It's going to call back a guild reply, not a player reply. The fail cause result. So if it's not equal to null, fail cause.print stack. If it is equal to null, else we're going to make our file configuration config just like normal. So boolean was found equals false. So if it finds that you are in this guild, then it's going to turn it to true. Otherwise, it's going to stay false. So for guild reply.guild member m, so basically everybody that's a member in the guild result.getGuild.get member. So this is getting all of the members in the guild, and this is m stands for each member in that guild. So if m, a member in the guild, .get UUID is equal to this UUID that the player was using, then we can do some stuff. So was found equals true. So if they weren't a guild mate in this guild, I mean, obviously it can be whichever guild you want, then it's not going to be true. So was found equals true. And this is where we're going to set some stuff inside the config. So set config UUID is in guild is true, and UUID guild rank is whatever the rank is. So it would be like guild master, member, or officer, like that. Okay. And if the player was not found in this guild, so if was found is false, then config.set is in guild false. So this will just help you know and keep track along the way, because we're going to make a few different things that track if they're in the guild or not, which this already tracks it, but we're going to make it do stuff. Okay. And then we're just going to finish it with that, and that's all. So everything in the get guild is done now, and luckily there's nothing red here. Okay, so let's go ahead and fix the get player. We're going to make the chat manager. So the chat manager, we're going to have two more classes, chat manager and rank manager. So we're going to make their events though. So in this package, we're going to create a new package and call it events. All right, so in events, we're going to make a new class. It's going to be called chat manager. Cool. So now we have a chat manager. So this is a listener class. It's an event. So implement listener. Just make sure it's imported from bucket. Okay. Okay. So we're gonna have our first event here at event handler public void on chat event. This is going to be an async player chat event. So inside here, it's not going to be too long. I'm just going to copy and paste here. So first we have a few strings. We make sure we got the right ranks. Rank config. So chat color dot gray and white. So these are just getting these as a string, and you can add them to your strings here. File configuration config. That's just getting our config file. Player has a player variable. UUID variable as a string. And so first things first is we're getting our config. So config.getUUID, which is the string gotten from our player's unique ID, and that's casted to a string. And then if it does not equal null, so if this person's unique ID is in the config file, which it should be if they're on the server, then we do stuff. So string rank. So their rank, config.getString is their rank. That's just having a placeholder for what their rank is. And then message equals event.getMessage. So this is just their message that is happening in chat here. Now, if their rank.equals ignore case none, then that means event.setFormat is going to be white. Now, it's little exclamation point. You probably know this, but it makes it the opposite of what you're saying. So rank.equals ignore case none. So basically, if it doesn't equal none, then it's going to be white. So if rank.equals ignore case none, that means that you're VIP or higher. That means that if you talk in chat, then you want your chat to be white. You know, you want to have the colon that's white, and you want the message that's white as well. Now, if you're if you're a non-donor, then event.setFormat player got dis.getDisplayName plus gray. So your chat's going to be gray. So that's just setting all this up for the chat whenever you talk, so it looks like it should. Next thing. Okay, so this one's going to be a really big method that I'm copying and pasting here. It's going to be another method here that we're going to create in a second, as well as this one. But let's go ahead and change this, rank config. Let's go ahead and create the other two methods, and we'll come back to this. So here is the convert color method. Here's the get player suffix. So what's happening here is, let's go over the get player suffix first. So basically, UUID is getting grabbed from the player, and we're grabbing the config file. So if config.get a boolean, so if they're in the guild, then we're going to do stuff. So if the boolean was false, then we wouldn't do anything. We would just return empty string basically. If config.getString.guildRank is guildmaster, then we're going to return master. We're going to put a space in between here because this is setting the suffix, or it's getting the suffix right now. And then we want to get, if it's an officer, then it's going to be officer. If it's a member, then it's going to be member, and that's what it's returning. So if it was not in the guild, then it would return nothing, and that's what happens when we get player suffix. So this is setting the scoreboard.getTeam, and that's how you can. We'll go over this a little bit more up there, but the team suffix is what you see in tab, and we make it gray. That's what you see. Now the next thing is convert color. So here we have public static chat color, and this is also returning a chat color, and the chat color variable is going to be rank plus color. So MVPs normally, what default, they have the light red or just the normal red, whatever you want to call it, plus, and this is going to convert all the different colors that they have. So it's converting it from the JSON and that it returns into an actual chat color that we can play with. So let's go ahead and look through here. It's pretty simple, it's pretty redundant here, but it's going to get all the different things that could possibly be it and transform it or return a rank plus color. So if color dot equals ignore case, so color being whatever string you put in here, transforming it into a rank color. If the string is aqua, then the rank plus color equals chat color dot aqua. And I mean, you get the rest. It does the same thing until it returns something, and that's that. All right. So that's really all the explanation for these two small ones. Now let's go and explain this big one that does a bunch. So set display name. We just used this. Right now it's gray. If we go over here and press save, we can chat manager, import that, and now everything should be good. Let's go back here. And so now set display name, it knows it's being used. And let's go through this. So there's a lot of variables here. It's getting the green, aqua, red, blue. These are just chat colors, fields into a string that we can use. File config, just grabbing the config, grabbing the player's UUID here. And then the scoreboard is being created here. So the scoreboard manager is being grabbed into a variable, then that's grabbed into a board right here. So if board.getTeam, and then it's getting the player.getName, so it's getting a string, player.getName. If it equals null, then we're going to create one. So it's going to make a new team, it's going to register that new team to the player's name, and then it's going to add that entry as the player's name. Else, if it's already created, then we're going to do board.getTeam, we're going to unregister it, and then we're going to re-register it again just to make sure always is getting registered. So if, and the next thing here, if config.getUUID equals null, that means that the player was not, this should never happen, but if it does happen to equal null, then that means the player was not put inside the config file. Their UUID does not exist in the config file for some reason. Now, if it does not equal null, then we're going to do all of this. So rank is config.getString. So this is getting it from the config, the rank. And if it equals admin, then we're going to set the admin rank. We're going to do prefix equals red. So this is just a string here. We're grabbing the prefix so we can better use it down here. So red plus admin, pretty obvious. And then player.getScoreboard.getTeam. So now we're setting the prefix, and so you can see in the tab their name. It's going, or not their name, their rank there. That's how we do that. And then set the display name, the prefix. So the prefix is admin and then their player name. That's how when you talk in chat, it's saying your display name plus the chat, which was described up above. And that's really what's doing every single time for mod, for helper, for YouTube, and MVP plus. Now MVP plus gets a little bit more complicated because if it doesn't have a plus, so if .rank plus color does not equal null, then that means they have a plus color and it's not just the normal one. And even if it is just the normal one, then it'll still work the same way, but finds their rank plus color and grabs that, and then it's going to get the prefix, and we can set the prefix correctly, and then we get the same thing as everything else, only just the prefix, and then the scoreboard prefix. So we're setting the scoreboard prefix just like we did before, setting the display name just like before. And then if it didn't have a rank plus color, that just means that they never changed it before, because you could be MVP plus and you've never changed it, and it would return to this one, if that makes sense. All right, now else if rank.equals ignore case MVP, VIP plus, VIP, and then if you're a non or default rank, it'll do that. And then of course player.get scoreboard.get team.set suffix, that's when we get the player suffix, which happens to be getting their guild rank, and that's just the whole gist of this whole class here. Okay, so there's one more class to add that we'll get to in just a second that actually does stuff, because now we have a bunch of methods, bunch of things, but we only have this one event when they're talking. The other event is going to be where when they join it's going to do something, when they leave it's going to do something, and that'll make sense in just a second. Let's go ahead and go back over the get player. Okay, so to explain this, result.getPlayer.getRank, normally you would just leave it as result.getPlayer.getRank does not equal null, and we wouldn't have this and as well. But what this is checking is if they've ever had their rank set. So if their rank was ever set, like normally set to helper, mod, admin, anything like that, then this would return true and it wouldn't be null. And so what happens is players that used to be staff, like if you were a helper one time and then you resigned or whatever happened, then you would have this rank, but you would be set to the normal rank. You wouldn't be set to one of the staff ranks. So we want to make sure that they're not set to normal, because if they're set to normal, then we want to go to the next thing. That means they're not staff. So that's why this is important that it's set like that, because if you were normally doing this and you were a staff, you were a helper, you resigned, and you joined this server with this plugin, then your rank would be white. It wouldn't know what you are because it thinks that you're in the staff. So it would set you as staff to be true, and all this. So that's why we have this here. I forgot to explain that properly, but there you go. All right, so let's go ahead and create our last event. So event new Java class rank manager. Okay, so again, this is going to implement listener. It's going to be from org.bucket. Okay, at event handler public void on join. So on player join event, then we're going to do stuff if somebody joins. Okay, so I'm going to copy and paste some stuff here. Let's make sure we import everything properly. So rank config, get player, get guild plugin. Okay, so we'll fix that in just a second. Let's go ahead and fix the plugin part. So up here, we're just gonna do this. So private ranks, and this is going to be our class name, which is rank manager. Copycats is not that, it's ranks. Okay, should be good. Now everything, there's no more errors. All right, so let's go ahead and explain this. So whenever somebody joins, we're gonna have a few variables already here. We're grabbing the config, we're grabbing the player, we're grabbing their UUID, and we have a few here placeholders for chat colors. And then we're going to go ahead and action the method getPlayer.main. So getPlayer, it's getting the player, it's getting all that data, it's putting all that stuff in the config file. GetGuild, it's doing the same thing, it's getting all the guild stuff, putting that inside of the config file. Now the event.setJoin message, normally if you join, it's in yellow and it says BlueSnapple joined the game, or whoever joined the server, something like that. Well, we're setting it to be nothing. And then what we're gonna do is set a scheduler, bucket.getServer.getScheduler.run task later asynchronously so it doesn't lag. And then we're going to set this up to a delay of 52 ticks. So basically a tick, 20 ticks is about 1 second. It's not quite a second, but it's pretty close. It's how Minecraft Bucket, whatever, does their time. So 20 ticks, that means this is basically a second and a half of just a delay. And the reason I do this is because it does take a second for the get player to register everything. Get guild, I think, is pretty quick, but get player has to go through a huge JSON, lots of strings to go through and figure out what's going on. So it takes a second. That's why I do that, so it has enough time to run and set up everything in the config just so it knows what it's doing. All right, so inside of this delay, we have a public void run. So for every player that is online, we're going to send them a message. So p.sendMessage player.getDisplayName plus yellow plus join the game. So pretty self-explanatory. Player getting their display name, yellow, join the game. So it's going to say that that player joined the game. Now, if config.getUUID.toString does not equal null, meaning if they are in the config file, then we're going to do if config.getBoolean. So if there's a boolean that is in guild, then we're going to, well, if this boolean is true, so if they are in the guild, then we're going to do if config.getString.getGuild equals ignore case guildmaster. So if the string, if they are the guildmaster, then we're going to do player.sendMessage aqua plus welcome guildmaster, your people love you. Okay. Same thing here. If it equals ignore case officer, then welcome fellow officer, thanks for being a role model to our members, smiley face. So you can do whatever you want. Welcome member of Copycats Guild, thanks for being a loyal member and following all the rules. Now if they're not in the guild, you can say, hey, you're not in our guild, what are you doing here? Just kidding, welcome to our guild server. So you can do whatever you want, doesn't really matter, but you don't even have to do this. This is just telling you some extras here, but that's pretty much it for that. By the way, if I'm going too fast, have questions for me, anything, feel free to comment and I'll get that sorted. So the last thing is our last event, and then we should actually be able to run this, so start up our little server, and we should be good to go as far as testing this out, and it should all work. Okay, so our last event is on player leave. So if the player quits, then we're going to grab the player, we're going to grab a placeholder for the yellow color, we're going to grab the scoreboard manager and the manager and the board. So if board.getTeam player.getName does not equal null, so if it found the player in the team, then we're going to take that team and we're going to unregister it, and then we're going to do event.setQuitMessage player.getDisplayName plus yellow left the game. So same thing like if they joined, but they left the game obviously. Okay, so that's pretty much everything. I know I'm not really explaining bucket stuff. I'm assuming that you already know how to code bucket a little bit maybe, but this is mainly just telling you, I'm pretty much just giving you the answer to making your ranks work just like it was on Hypixel. Okay, so one last thing that we need to do is make sure in our ranks that we actually register these events. So let's go ahead and in our on enable, we're going to do plugin manager pm equals get server.get manager pm.register events, and make sure that we have rank manager imported, chat manager imported, and then finished. And alright, so it looks like I made a typo whenever I created our package. So rank plugins, sure, that's what we wanted it to be, but it's rank pl plugin. So let's go ahead and refactor that and just make it rank plugin so it actually makes sense. Should be good to go. Okay, so one thing we forgot to do was add the config file on enable. So our config file was ranks config or rank config, and after that it should be all good. Let's go ahead and press play. All right, build success, everything's good. Let's go ahead and jump on the test server. Alright, yeah, so my name is White right now. Reason for that is I believe that our file was not created fast enough, because this is the first time that I logged in and used this plugin, and it had to create the files and do all of its stuff right away. So if I go ahead and log out, log back in, the files should have already been created now, and this problem shouldn't happen ever again. And if you do want it so every single time, the first time it's ever been used, it will work and it will not be white like that, I can show you some few things. Just message me on the forums or something like that, and I'll get you taken care of. But let's go ahead and rejoin. Alright, wait a second and a half, and okay, boom. So it says mod join the game, welcome fellow officer. So that's the message that we set up before, and you can see BlueSnapple officer, that's just what it was like before. Alright, so everything works just like normal. If I say hello, it types like you would think it would. If anybody joins the server, even if you went on Hypixel and you were MVP plus and you changed your plus right when you log on, it would be the correct plus. It's really cool if you have a little private guild event server, something like that. But oh yeah, that's pretty much it. If you have any questions, concerns, hopefully I cleared up everything. I know that people were having lots of trouble with that dependency error. That was probably pretty annoying, and now I'm dying of hunger. But if you like this video, that's cool. I guess I'll see you around.